What's up, everyone? My name is ZayNews, and this is episode 12, believe it or not, of the ZayNews Podcast, where we talk about all things basketball, whether it's the NBA, college hoops, youth basketball, you name it. If it's about hoops, then we talk about it. I know college hoops just got wrapped up this past Monday with Florida winning the national championship. Congrats to them. But I'll tell you what, there is so much going on in the NBA right now. I feel like I have to dive right in, get into it. The West is ultra competitive. We got coaches getting fired left and right. We're going to break it all down. But if you like the content, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know if my takes are absolutely trash and you don't agree with them at all. But I try to drop gems on you guys. So if you like the content, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's blow this thing up. Let's get more people watching it, and let's get more of a community built here. So without further ado, let's get into it. And excuse me. Without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start right at which I just alluded to, right? And that is in the NBA, where the Denver Nuggets fired their head coach of the past, who knows how long, 8 years, I think at least, Mike Malone. So Mike Malone earlier this week got fired along with the GM over there in Denver. Seems like behind the scenes there was a lot going on, right? Because ownership said, I don't want to deal with either of you guys anymore. I'm firing Mike Malone. I'm firing the GM, and we're just going to rinse our hands of it. We'll hire two new guys in the offseason, and we'll just go from there. But as you guys know, Denver, for most of this season, for the past 3-4 years, has been a legitimate title contender each of those years. They have the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. And firing your coach with a player of his caliber this close to playoffs just is odd, right? And I think it struck everybody by surprise because Mike Malone has done a hell of a job and has been a great coach from at least what we've seen, right? From a strategic standpoint, from a getting the most out of his guys standpoint, being able to maximize players on the floor, all that sort of stuff, right? Everything the coaches do, Mike Malone has been the epitome of that, right? From a positive standpoint, and he's been a great coach. Now, there's been some clips coming out of how he has really tried to, in post game conferences, talking to the media, um, you know, galvanize his troops, right, and call on his guys and really state expectations clearly, right, not only to his players, because I'm 100% certain he says this directly to his players, but also to the media, and people think that has something to do with just the relationships behind the scenes and why he may have gotten fired. But the truth is, none of us know. And I can tell you right now, the Nuggets, at least this season, will not be better off for it. So I don't know how you guys feel about it. I feel like to fire a guy like Mike Malone, who has brought a championship to a city who at that point had not won a championship, regardless of whether he had the best player in the world or not, right? You need a certain caliber of coach to do that, right, and get the most out of that group, and he did that. So I got to be honest, I think it's a little unfair to him. I think it's a little unfair to the work that he's done. Again, I don't know what's happened behind the scenes, but I am pretty certain that the Nuggets will not be better off for this. And I would go as far to say as I wouldn't be surprised if they were a first round exit. Now, when you have Joker on your team, you can never rule out the possibility of him winning the series, just playing ridiculously. Um, but for them to be going into the playoffs without their lead coach, there being an unknown with Jamal Murray. Even if he does come back, it sounds like he is going to come back during the playoffs, right? So he's going to have to play himself back into form, which is tough to do. You know what I'm saying? Especially when the game changes in the playoffs. There's a certain level of intensity that comes with playing in the playoffs. Um, it's going to be tough. Now, that's not to say if the Nuggets don't get the right matchup, let's say they wound up playing um, like Minnesota in the first round. Well, actually, Minnesota's a terrible matchup for them. So, wrong example. But maybe they could beat the Warriors, right? The Warriors have been playing really good basketball, but as we all know, they don't necessarily have the roster to stop or slow down somebody like Joker. Um, that could be a tough series for them. If they lined up against Memphis, I would pick Denver versus Memphis, right? But if you're talking about them slipping down to the seventh or eighth seed where they got to play OKC first, which is still in the realm of possibility if they don't finish the regular season strong, they could be a first round exit. I think if they wind up in the play-in, Joker will find a way to get those wins, right, and make sure that they're solidified in the playoffs. But you never know, and they are in a very um, weird spot right now with no coach. They play Memphis tonight. Memphis is coming off a loss. They're coming off a win. Memphis needs this one. I expect this game to be extremely competitive. And when you got Ja Morant coming off pick and rolls, getting downhill on you versus a guy like Joker who struggles in those situations, anything can happen in a game like this. You know what I'm saying? So I say all this to say, who knows how their season's going to end up? Who knows who they're going to match up with? I don't like their chances versus OKC. I don't like their chances versus the Lakers. Any series where Joker's going to have to guard a lot of pick and rolls, and not just guard a lot of pick and rolls, guard a lot of guys who are the most elite players in pick and rolls, right? When you're talking about Luka Doncic, when you're talking about, yes, Austin Reeves at this point, when you're talking about LeBron James, guys who are just elite at manipulating defenses. When you go over to OKC and you got to guard Shea off the pick and rolls, plus they got, length on the interior. Not saying they're going to slow down Joker, but these are tough matchups. And I'll be honest, a lot of people don't believe in the Rockets, but the Rockets are playing great basketball and they defend their butts off. They absolutely defend their butts off. I don't know who I would pick in a series out of them and Denver. I think a lot of it would have to do with having a healthy Jamal Murray or not. But for one, Joker has to guard on the interior. They have bodies to guard Joker, right? When you're talking about bringing in guys like Steven Adams off the bench, right? They have bodies to throw Joker. Not saying, again, you're going to slow him down. But I think that is a tough matchup because they have a lot of quick athletic guards along with a nice mix of size, right? So they can make it very interesting. And at this point, I mean, with all the unknowns around Denver, I would maybe lean towards the Rockets in that series with how well they've been playing, to be honest with you. But we have yet to see. Who knows what's going to happen? But just wanted to bring that up. I think Mike Malone has been an awesome coach. I think that the Spurs, with the unknowns with Coach Pop and Mike Malone coming up through that Spurs funnel, would be an awesome addition to that team, right? Allow Pop to kind of ride off into the sunset with his health issues. Hopefully he can, get better and make a full recovery from what he's went through. I don't know if Pop needs to be on the sidelines anymore. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he can have a role that's a little bit different, advising, giving suggestions, playing a role, being there, but maybe not being there every day, all the travel, stuff like that. Just for his own sake and his own health, because Pop has definitely earned that. And I think, he's played a part in changing the game for the better and, right off into the sunset, Pop. And I think a guy like Malone would be a great addition to the Spurs team. Right, they got a new roster coming in. You get a new head coach that can work with those guys for the next however many years and really start to build a potential, dynasty similar to, what they had in the past. So we'll see. But before I move on from the Nuggets, I did want to pose one question to you guys. So Nuggets fire Coach Malone. We kind of saw this same thing unfold that's happening currently with the Denver Nuggets over the past, let's say, 3 years since they won the championship. The same thing pretty much happened in Milwaukee with Giannis, right? Smaller market team, best player in the NBA at the time. You win a championship, and then ownership starts to get cheap, right? So you don't sign back your guys. You start to make trades. You start to not try and build upon, the roster that got you the championship, but rather make these large changes that, and things just aren't ever quite the same, right? And that's why we start to hear trade rumors, right? We've been hearing this for the past 2 seasons with Giannis. What's going to happen with when his extension is up? Is he going to look elsewhere? And I would imagine if the Milwaukee Bucks are a first-round exit this year, which is a real possibility just with their roster configuration, Giannis having to carry the large majority of the load in order for them to win, especially without Damian Lillard. If they're a first-round exit, even if they make it to the second round and they get bounced in like 4 or 5 games, I'm imagining Milwaukee's going to start looking at the possibility of Giannis not resigning. And I would imagine that Giannis will also at least test free agency to see what's out there, right? He just won't sign a blanket, extension without exploring his other options. So Milwaukee does their due diligence to see what's out there. Now, with Denver, the reason I bring this up, dealing with sort of the same thing, right? They won the championship, got cheap, didn't sign back Bruce Brown, didn't sign back KCP, and they've been paying for it the past 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I think if they even just ran it back, with the team that won the championship, they probably maybe they don't win it again, but maybe they get back to a championship, lose to Boston, something like that, right? Like it looks a little bit different than what it has this past 2 years, um, which has been a little disappointing if we're being honest. So I say all that to say, Denver firing their coach, they're going to be looking to make some changes this offseason, right? Especially if they really want to keep Joker. Now, this may sound crazy. This may sound like a NBA 2K trade. I don't know, but it's just something that popped in my head. With Giannis potentially being on the trading block and with Denver needing to make some serious changes, is there a potential for a Giannis to Denver trade and you pair the two best players in the world in their prime still? Now, how do you get that done, you might ask? What if Denver were to offer the Bucks? What if Denver were to offer the Bucks Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter Jr., right? If they were to offer those three guys, plus I'm pretty sure between 2027 and 2031, the Denver Nuggets have 5 first-round picks. You offer like 4 or 5 of those first-round picks for Giannis. The Bucks have to at least consider that, right? With the potential that Giannis does not sign back there, with the potential that they just lose him to free agency, that's a serious offer, right? Because by the Denver Nuggets offering those 3 guys, right? Essentially, there are 3 other core guys outside of Joker. You make Milwaukee Bucks still a playoff team, right? So essentially, they're still in the same realm as what they are right now with Damian Lillard being hurt, around like a first or maybe second round exit in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So you still have some semblance of a team, right? You still have guys who can win games, win 45 games, make the playoffs in the East, and be competitive. But you also accumulate a ton of assets, and also you have these guys. So if you decide to tank or blow it up or just decide to start from scratch, what is Jamal Murray going to warrant? Maybe he warrants 2 first-round picks or a young guy in a first. Um, Aaron Gordon is an elite role player who would help any championship team. He would be a guy who, if on the trade market, would be a big asset. So he would garner a lot of attention and a lot of assets for him. Michael Porter Jr. is still a young guy who can shoot the hell out of the ball, growing his game and getting to the rack, playing better defense. He's a guy who would garner a lot of attention and assets as well. If you're the Denver Nuggets and you could pair the 2 best players in the world, do you do that? And to make the money work, maybe you throw in a guy like Gary Temple, maybe you throw in a guy like Taurean Prince, so that you just don't have nothing, right? Your roster's not just now completely empty, and you got to go sign free agents just to make the roster numbers work, right? Like you add in a few guys here or there just to make the money work and make it work logistically. I don't know. I think if you're Denver, you got to make some sort of shocking move, because to be honest with you, these European guys tend to be very loyal, right? Giannis has showed that. Luka showed that he wasn't going nowhere in Dallas. Joker, I think, has showed that. I don't think he necessarily wants to leave Denver. But at some point, when ownership starts to show that they don't have the same level of loyalty, these European players, I think, are starting to realize that, and they're starting to be like, maybe it's not in my best interest to stay. Maybe I can go win more somewhere else. Maybe I can go, do this, do that, and just be in a better situation where I don't got to worry about all this BS, right? And I think even though Giannis, wants to stay in Milwaukee, he started to realize that. I think same can be said for Luka. Even though he wanted to be in Dallas, he's probably going to realize that, maybe this Lakers situation is for the best, in the long term for him individually. So, and who's to say Joker doesn't start to realize that either? I know he's a low maintenance guy. I know he probably doesn't want to leave Denver, but these guys, it seems like these European guys really respect and really try to be loyal, and they respect loyalty and they try to be loyal. So it wouldn't surprise me if this ruffles feathers. If you start to remove some of the guys who he trusts, who he's played with, who he's came up with. Um, that if you don't make those moves in good faith and bring in somebody who he can reasonably win with, why wouldn't he consider leaving? Now, this is definitely, again, a NBA 2K trade, crazy blockbuster. Who knows if it would happen? But I think on both sides, this could be something that works for the teams because, again, Denver is going to have to make some changes this year. They're going to have to show that they're willing to spend money. They're going to have to show that they're willing to make big moves to make things happen. Milwaukee, if they are a first round exit, you have to consider the possibility of Giannis just leaving in free agency and you getting left with nothing for him. So you have to start thinking of these things, right? Again, unless Milwaukee is able to make some big changes in the offseason, which I don't foresee them being able to do because people just generally don't want to go to Milwaukee, um, it's going to be hard for them to put a team around Giannis that is a real championship contender, especially with Boston doing what they're doing, the Knicks making the moves that they're making. It's going to be tough, right? Like realistically, who can you get this summer? Um, you don't have the assets to trade for even like a 37-year-old KD. You know what I'm saying? And he would help your team for sure. You guys need somebody like that. You guys need a lot. You need some better defenders, better shooters. That roster, the way it's configured right now, is just not great. So um, the practicality of them being able to make the moves they need to make to put a team around Giannis that can compete for a championship realistically, like actually not just make the playoffs, but actually contend for a championship and like be neck and neck with Boston in the series. I don't know if they can make those moves. So um, I don't know. This was just a fun one that popped in my head. Could Denver trade their three core guys outside of Joker and Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Aaron Gordon, plus the 4 or 5 first round picks I think they have moving forward in the future for Giannis? And would those teams consider it? I think yes. I think if you put that trade on the table, plus whatever guys Milwaukee had to throw in to make the numbers work and make it work logistically, I think both teams, especially if Milwaukee is a first round exit, would consider it. And then you're talking about pairing the best two players in the world together. Um, a dominating force with a more both dominating forces, but you got like the dominant play style of Giannis, the aggressive play style of Giannis um, with the more intuitive and more strategic gameplay of the Joker. Those guys feeding off each other, both great passers. Joker, obviously one of the best passers ever. Uh, Goodness gracious, that would be fun to watch. That would be really fun to watch. And then you pick who you run alongside them. You get some guys who could shoot some threes, plays a little defense. Giannis covering up a lot of the holes that Joker might have defensively, right? Covering a lot of those gaps. Both guys averaging like 25. Both guys averaging like 10 boards. Maybe Joker averages another triple double. Maybe Giannis averages 30. You know what I'm saying? Like that'd be a scary team to go up against. And I fully think if they really sat down and put pencil to paper, that could be a possibility. That could definitely be a possibility. But anyways, moving on. Wanted to talk really quickly about the Western Conference playoff race. As I alluded to earlier, it's really coming down to the end of the season, right? Like normally these last two games don't matter that much, right? Maybe it matters on play-in seeding, maybe it matters for the 7th and 8th seed. This literally matters 3rd through 10th, right? Well, 3rd through 8th, right? Because ninth and 10th are already solidified there. But still, like this could literally, if the Lakers lost the past two games, they could wind up in the play-in possibly. You know what I'm saying? Right now they're the 3rd seed. You know what I'm saying? So who knows what's going to happen? You know what I'm saying? It's just so much unknown in the playoffs, and that just speaks to, especially in the Western Conference, how competitive it has been, and the playoffs are going to be this season. I like the Lakers right now at the 3rd seed. I don't know who they're going to play. Um, I would guess that it's honestly with the way the season's ending up, Memphis is probably going to wind up staying in the play, and they play Denver tonight. Um, I think Denver's going to be riding a little bit higher just from the coach firing, so they're probably going to close out the season better, than they have been playing and try to win these last few games, so they can solidify their playoff spot and not have to be in the play-in tournament. Um, so yeah, I think Memphis would be the most ideal matchup for the Lakers. But I think Memphis is going to drop below the 6th seed, and they're probably going to be in the play-in. And I think the Lakers' most likely opponent is going to be the Warriors. Um, let's look at the standings real quick. It's going to be the Warriors. Could be Denver, um, or the Clippers. Yeah, that's the last team that I couldn't think of. So I think those are the most likely teams: the Nuggets, Clippers, or Warriors. The Lakers will play in the first round. To be honest with you, I like their odds against all three of those teams. Um, I think Joker's going to have a really hard time if he has to guard the Lakers in a 7-game series. With all the pick and rolls, with all how efficient our team is, the Lakers are coming off pick and rolls, and just hunting matchups, making guys guard on the perimeter, that sort of thing. That's going to be a tough series for the Nuggets, right? With the way the Lakers now play the game, right, and they're not trying to play through AD and AD essentially having to win that matchup in order for them to beat the Nuggets. It's a different ball game, and I think the Nuggets are just going to struggle with that. Clippers, I honestly think match up the best with the Lakers. They have size, right, in Zubac. I think Zubac would be a very tough problem to deal with for us, but they also have a really good balance of elite guards as well, and that's the difference. Like, obviously, we're going to struggle to guard Joker as well, but outside of Joker, I think we're going to be all right. Whereas with the Clippers, right, you got James Harden to deal with, you got Kawhi Leonard to deal with, you got Norman Powell to deal with. They got a lot of guys, who can shoot that ball, who can defend at a pretty high level, and again, Zubac is playing really good basketball. So I think Clippers provide a unique challenge for us. I still think we'd win, but that may be our toughest out of these teams. And then you got the Warriors. Um, the Warriors are interesting because I think they could pose the biggest problems, but for some reason I just don't. I don't believe in them the same way that a few other people do. I think playoff Jimmy has been a real thing in the past, but we have not seen Jimmy play to that caliber at any point this season. Usually he shows glimpses of it at different points of the season. I feel like this season, between the trade rumors, between all that sort of stuff, we haven't really seen him take it up a notch. That's not to say that he can't, but he is like 35, 36. Asking him to just turn it on, I think, will be tough. And then also, like, I realized this in the Spurs game the other day when the Warriors lost to the Spurs off that buzzer beater by Harrison Barnes, that Draymond has to do a lot defensively. Now, they're a pretty good defensive team, but Draymond really anchors that defense, and he's looked tired recently. You know what I'm saying? He has looked tired, and getting switches on the perimeter and having to guard all these guys constantly, in pick and rolls, on help side defense, and just being that anchor is very tough, and it's very demanding. So, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, but I like the Lakers odds between all those three teams. I think the Grizzlies would be probably like a 4, maybe 5-game series. Maybe they squeeze one out of us, but I think any one of those other teams that I mentioned, Warriors, Clippers, or Nuggets, is probably a 6-game series, maybe 5. I mean, if we haven't figured out 5, but I like our chances between all those teams, to be honest with you. So, yeah, playoffs, that shifted more into a Lakers segment, but I like where the Lakers are at right now. I think they have a legitimate chance of making it to the conference championship, and to be honest with you, I would favorite them over the Thunder after what I just saw. To me, based on those two games, it felt like the Thunder need a big game out of their role players in order to win. And I don't think guys like Lou Dort are going to consistently shoot the way he shot in that second game. I don't think Jalen Williams, to be honest with you, he had 26. Now, he's capable of scoring 26. I don't think he's going to do that efficiently that often, right? Like, you may sign up for one of those games in a 7-game series. I don't think he's going to do it like 3 games. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's going to do it 4 games for sure. But I think they need that kind of production out of guys, because the reality is Shea could score 40, but if those other guys are quiet, then we're really not moved. And also, There was a point in that second game where Shea literally shot the ball, and I don't think he passed it. And this is what I want to point out. Now I know he's a scorer, he's terrific, he's great, he's going to be the MVP this year. He should be the MVP this year. He shot the ball without passing it. It felt like 6 or 7 straight possessions in a row. Like I vividly remember him coming down. Yep. Shoot, miss, shoot, miss, shoot, miss, shoot, miss. Missed 4 in a row. He said, "F that, I'm gonna continue shooting," and he ended up shooting 2 or 3 more. If that's your offense, I think the Lakers are going to be able to scheme against that, and I think JJ Redick's a very insightful coach, and I think honestly they'll be all right in that series. I think they could beat the Thunder in 6 games because I think here's the thing, right? You have 3 really high level closers on the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to say Shea can't close games because he is a really good closer as well. But you have 3 really good closers on the Lakers. I assume many of these games are going to be really competitive. And if they are coming down to the last 2 minutes of a game, I think more times than not, the Lakers are going to squeak out those games as opposed to the Thunder are. So that's kind of how I feel about that series. Um, the Thunder are deep. They are deep. They got a lot of weapons, and that can make it tough to guard because who knows. But benches tend to shrink in the playoffs. Minutes tend to go down for bench guys in the playoffs, and starter minutes tend to go up. So we shall see. But right now, I think the Lakers have a legitimate shot at making it to the championship. And as a Lakers fan, I can say I want to be as transparent as possible. I think a Boston series would be tough. Let me say that again. As a Lakers fan, I want to be transparent. I think if we run into the Boston Celtics in the NBA championship, it's going to be a tough series for us. I think we'll fare better than what Dallas did last season, right? I think we can take a couple games off Boston, and then who knows, right? Who knows up to that point? But Boston seems to be just such a well-oiled machine who is playing their best basketball at this point in the season, right? Over the past month or so, heading into the playoffs, it's going to be a tough one for us. If anyone else manages to make it to the championship, Cleveland gets hot, they find a way to get past Boston. The Knicks figure out their defensive struggles this entire season, and they can defend because they have the talent, I think, to give Boston a run for their money, but defensively they just have not been consistent enough. I think the Lakers can beat any of those other teams. Boston, I think, is going to be a real struggle. I don't want to say we can't beat them. I think it's going to be an uphill climb, though. I think if we did beat them, it'd be in like a 7-game series in dramatic fashion type thing. But man, the playoffs have been, or not the playoffs, the NBA season has been so fun this year. So much crazy stuff has happened. People talk about the NBA not being exciting. They are tripping. The NBA has a lot to offer. It's been extremely fun. I'm excited to see how the playoffs go. I'm excited to see how the regular season winds down and how the seeding all ends up. The Lakers play the Rockets tonight. Rockets resting a lot of their guys. I got LA taking that one because we need that one. And then we got Portland last game of the season. The Warriors play. Do the Warriors play tonight? Let's go look. I know Denver and Memphis play tonight. I already mentioned that. That's an important game. Going to be watching closely at that one. The Warriors do play. They play the Trailblazers. They better win that one because they just lost to the Spurs. They're going to really need that game for seeding purposes. So tonight I'm gonna pick Lakers to win this one, get us to 50 games, get us to lock in that 3rd seed. Warriors win tonight, get them to 48 wins. Clippers and Kings play tonight. Now the Kings just lost to Denver the other night. I wouldn't be surprised if the Kings came out and shot the ball really well and got a win. These wins still matter for the Kings because I think they're really close between the 9th and 10th seed, and the 9th seed gets to host in the play-in series. And the Kings typically and historically are really good at home. So I would expect they're going to come out and really try to win this game. And I think this is a winnable game for them because I think Sabonis matches up well with Zubac. I think they got perimeter scoring in DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. If they shoot the ball well, they can definitely get that win. So I'm going to go sleeper pick and pick the Kings in that one. Most definitely. Thunder Jazz, who cares? Timberwolves need this win versus the Nets. I think Timberwolves will get the job done there. And then Grizzlies, Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are going to win. I think, they know they need this game. They have the best player in the world. They're going to really be pushing to get this win. But I think Grizzlies offer a unique matchup problem in that they have maybe the most athletic point guard in the NBA who can really get downhill. So if Ja is playing the way we know he can play and he's really being aggressive and attacking, I could see Memphis getting that dub. And they need a win because they just lost. And there's still a potential that they don't have to be in the play-in. So let's go Memphis there. Let's go Memphis. I got Memphis. Timberwolves will win tonight. Kings, Warriors, and then Lakers because the Rockets are resting a lot of guys. I mean, I think Lakers are the better team anyways, but Rockets resting a lot of guys, so I think Lakers will get that one done. We need to get that one done. LA needs to get that one done. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you engaging with the content. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And as always, I wish you guys the best. We'll talk soon in the next one. Peace.